What's up guys, hope you're all well. I've got 3 new modifications for the Photon M3 Plus, making the non-insulated touchscreen panel external, adjustable feet, and the front panel cover. See, this printer's LCD touchscreen has zero insulation against leaks. Combine that with poor insulation of the VAT screen, a pierced FEP sheet, and you have yourself a broken touch display. This is exactly what happened here with me. Anycubic shipped me a poorly assembled unit, and if you see my previous videos, I had to replace the screen because the FEP sheet wasn't secured properly to the VAT, which caused the leak onto the screen, and the screen itself, it wasn't insulated correctly either, and since the screen wasn't insulated correctly, the leaked resin underneath broke the screen. And during this whole process, since the resin leaked everywhere, I noticed that it got onto the touchscreen as well, which wasn't insulated at all, which caused issues with the sensitivity, as you can see here. Okay, to do this mod, we're going to have to do a few things. So first of all, make sure the printer is switched off and disconnect it from the DC connector. Remove the front UV cover. Remove the build plate. And if it has resin on it, put it in a tray that can get dirty. Might want to do it with gloves. And unscrew the VAT thumb screws and remove the VAT. If you have resin in it, make sure you have no holes in your FEP sheet, and then you can just set it aside. You don't have to empty it. Just make sure you won't step in it. If you're going to put it on the floor, make sure maybe to put it on a newspaper perhaps. And then we might want to remove the silicone tubes from the pump, just so that we can take it down easier. So disconnect the silicone tubes from the back. And then you're going to have to want to put it on the floor. So it's all disconnected, but the tube is disconnected, power supply, and it is heavy, so be very careful. Oh, nope. You need to disconnect the sensor wire for the auto feeding tube, so don't forget that. And now, you put it on the floor. And remember, this area is quite heavy, so be careful with that. Okay, and the screws would be here, here, and here. So let's remove that. And we need to be very careful and lift it like that, because if we look from this side, you see there is a connected cable to the screen currently. You have the black little lever. You want to use your thumbnail, and lift it until it kind of pops up like that, and then that means the flat cable can be pulled out. And you want to remember that the blue side will go up, point upwards, same as on this side. So this side we don't even need to remove. You can see here the blue is pointing up, unlike the VAT. I'm mentioning this because this is important. The VAT wire, all the pins are at the top for some reason, which is one mistake that I made before when I was trying to reconnect the VAT. I was getting 2 error codes, and if you connect this with these pins pointing downwards, you will get these 2 error codes. You can also see that I got adjustable feet, and this is actually a vital thing in my opinion, because when you have the VAT on the printer, if say your table is not level, if it's like slightly down, backwards, side, if you fill it up too much, and on the first layer when the build plate goes down and squishes, if it's not level, the resin can overflow. And when it overflows and into the front panel and into the screen, which is one of the biggest reasons why I actually started this project in the first place. I'm going to move the screen from being in the center to being external. I'd rather have it on top of the printer, because so it's at my standing level. So when that did happen, the touch sensitivity wasn't very responsive anymore. No matter how much I cleaned it, I even removed it, cleaned it with IPA, just the touch responsivity wasn't good anymore. So let's just back up a bit and show you how I done the adjustable feet. You would unscrew this, and you need to print 6 in total of these little knobs. You would also need a different, I think it's M5, I'm going to have it listed in the description, but I think this is M5 screws. So in total, this is 33 millimeters. If we're doing just the threaded part, it is 3 centimeters on the threaded side, and 3 millimeters for the head. And it is M5. So actually you can see there's a little metal washer at the bottom of it. We're going to reuse the feet that come with the Anycubic. Put it through the bottom. And then there is a slot for an M5 nut. And it's going to be a bit tight to fit in. If you're having trouble with fitting it in, just hold it here. Use a drill and screw it together. And when it starts reaching the end, align the nut with the hole, and if it doesn't fit in, instead of reprinting it, you can just use a screwdriver carefully and it will pull it in. And you want a bit of resistance so that it wouldn't just spin in place, because the only thing that's holding this adjustable knob in place is friction, really. Like we haven't super glued it to the rubber feet, but that is basically what's going to adjust the height of it, adjusting this. And then we want a spacer, because if you just put it in like that, it could just spin, and we don't want it spinning. So I got this silicone spacer. I think it's M4. I'll have it in the description for the correct size. The outside diameter doesn't really matter. It's the internal diameter that matters. So same kind of thing. We'll put it just slightly over the screw, then drill it. There we go. And now we can put it in. So for the middle ones, you can see like middle ones here, I like to have them close to the bottom base. So we ignore them for the beginning process, and we adjust the outer feet with a level until it's perfectly level, and then you can adjust the middle feet to match the levelness. These are the screws that we have for the panel, so let's put them aside and let's get back to doing the modification for the screen. So this flat wire that went to the screen, I want it to go behind this motherboard, and I want it to go all the way through the back here. So first, let's unscrew these. It's good if your screwdriver is magnetized, because we don't want to lose any of these screws. And now the motherboard is loose. Let's disconnect the VAT, and remember, this cable, the silver pins are going to be facing up when we reconfigure this. So the VAT wire is going to go to the top. Before we make any further progress, let's actually just turn this to the side and let's reveal the back, because we're going to be poking the wire through the back and it's going to go up. So you can see the sensor wire is here. So let's disconnect that for now. So this little chipboard is a converter to convert this 40-pin ribbon cable into our 40-pin flat ribbon cable. The distance for each pin on this side is 0.5 millimeters, so that is the pitch, I believe, and there's 40 pins. Whilst on this side, although it says 1.0 millimeters, it's actually 2.54 between each pin. This is what we're going to be using to extend the whole screen. Now, what I initially thought was that the longer the cable, the bigger the degradation of the signal, and I was actually having some cutouts and some interference from the screen, and I thought it was because the cable was too long, because this is 1 meters. But actually what in the end turned out to be the problem was the orientation of these little adapters. So if we have a look at them, I can disconnect one of them, which is quite hard once you actually connect it. You can put it on the other side, and you can actually mix it up with the other side as well. And if you have them orientated in the wrong direction, it will be causing the interference and the degradation or whatever it is, basically making the screen not function as it should. So, and the reason why I kept on getting confused with this, and this isn't just about the forward or reverse in terms of the flat wire naming convention, or whatever you want to call it, is because there is 2 rows, there's upper and a bottom, so that does get a bit confusing. Anyway, So the correct orientation basically is this. You can see it. So lay it down flat, and you can see that the ribbons are pointing up here, and on the other side pointing up as well, and the connectors are like here. And the best way to test this, if you've got the correct orientation, what I would advise is using a multimeter in the continuity mode and check them on the other side. Get it on the other side, so, and touch the multimeter from 1, which is here, to 1, and make sure they all are aligned 1 to 1, because if one of the rows are in the wrong way, it'll screw things up. Another reason why I kept on thinking this was because what if the cable is supposed to be like this, and now they don't look like they're in the same direction. So yeah, basically there was a lot of confusion for me in correctly orientating this little adapter, but this is the correct way basically. So you have the flat side up here, and on the other side, flat side up here, with a connector here and a connector here. Very important. If you don't have this correctly aligned, it won't work. You will get degradation, you will get interference, or whatever you want to call it. You will get the screen glitching basically. And these are flat 4-direction FPC FFC flat cables. These are again 40 pin at 0.5mm pitch. So, and by 4-direction means they are both facing the same way, they don't turn around. So if we want this whole cable to fit in under the printer, we need to turn this flat cable into a round cable, and this is the specifically reason why I bought this cable as it is. Okay, so I've got a fresh new Stanley knife, and I'm not going to be cutting the cable itself, but in between them, until you can actually spread it apart. Might seem difficult at first, but it'll become really easy once it stops spreading. There we go, 1, and now repeat it for all the cables. Like that, there we go. I'm going to keep going down to make sure that there's no wire touching another wire, in case I do use the knife and actually puncture it and revealing the wire inside. Also, another reason why I'm turning this into a round cable is so that you could actually rotate it. When it's flat, you can only go up or down in a way, you can't exactly roll it. Actually, after we finish this, it would be a good time to check the continuity of each pin. Make sure not to get tangled, because there's a lot of wires, there's 40 of them. But yeah, it might seem excessive, but it's just something that I wanted to do, so yeah. If you guys want to do it and you're as crazy at me. But do be gentle with the wires. I mean, they aren't the thickest wires, so you want to be a little bit careful with them. Before we actually proceed to actually turning it into a round wire, we might want to test it. So I've got a printer back up here on the table, and I'm not going to bother with the VAT cable. The screen cable, that's not needed at the moment, but basically I'm going to connect the screen cable, you see the blue sticker, into this long cable. And I'm going to be very careful. Let's go a bit closer, and don't want this to be excessively weighed down, so I'm going to bring it here. Put some weight on it so that there's not too much weight on the motherboard side. Make sure the motherboard isn't touching any other components, no metals. And on this side, that's where I'm going to connect the screen itself. So actually, we can unscrew the screen from the front panel actually now. Okay, so I've got a little connect. So this is 40 pin, and it's 4-direction, which means that the blue sides are both on the top. If it was a reverse direction, it would be one blue here and one blue at the bottom, where you can see that the pins are revealed on one side. And this is 0.5mm pitch, so 40 pin, 0.5mm pitch, and we lift that lever again. See the lever here, and once it's up, you can actually insert this little flat ribbon cable here, not ribbon, I don't know, just flat FCP I think it's called, and it doesn't go in deep. Do not force it, it's supposed to go in quite easily once the lever is up. And look how little goes in, maybe like 1 or maybe around 2 to 3 millimeters. There we go, and then close the lever. And the same thing on the other side, which is here. Lift the lever. Look how little it goes in again. Very tiny. And now we can test this. So again, make sure the motherboard isn't touching any metal pieces. And for this screen, I'm just going to lay it down here. Remember, the screen is not connected, the VAT screen, the UV screen. Motherboard is still connected, we didn't disconnect anything, and we can actually reconnect the power supply and turn it on. See, and that is exactly the reason why we do this little test before we actually make any other progress. So basically I had it wrong way around as I previously did, but it's good to show you that as an example. So here we go, you just see I flipped it round. So let's try this again. And we have nothing at all. No backlight this time. Okay, so what you saw previously in the previous video where I just flipped it over, that was wrong. It was wrong in terms of actually using it in the connection, but it's correct for testing it. So I got a continuity meter, and what I did was I'm looking at them from both this side, and I basically tested 1, 1, 1, and then switch to the second one, 2, 2, and basically I've done it through all the pins. So we need to flip it back and refer to it in the first video that I showed. So that is the correct way, because as you saw, I just tried to power it on and we didn't even get a backlight, so that clearly indicated that something wasn't right. So what I'll do now quickly is I just make sure that these little flat cables are okay. And I've got a bit of kitchen roll here and IPA. Let's clean that. That's good. This side as well, so for both sides, and then plug it back in. You see, it goes in very little, doesn't go far. And the cable itself, the expansion cable. Perfectly aligned into the motherboard again. So maybe I'll clean that side of the pins as well. And this goes to this. Obviously, whilst the power of the printer is off. Now and try to power it on. We've got backlight on that, but still no video on that. So another thing that we can try is, actually this is a used one that I did rotate slightly, so maybe it's this. This came with quite a few of them anyway. Okay, so we've got a brand new of these flat ribbon cables. We'll connect that into the screen. Gently turn it around, power it on. Okay, so I did get it to work. So my initial orientation of the adapter cable to adapter was correct. The pin alignment and sides are correct as they are. You see blue is going to the top, and the same thing on the here. Let's just turn it off. We have a look at it from this side. That is correct. I think what was wrong is I think the lever wasn't fully closed. So if you have backlight going on the monitor, that just means the rest of the pins aren't fully closed perhaps. And what you can do is you can clean this little short 6 centimeter ribbon cable with IPA. The good thing about this whole cable setup is if you get the orientation wrong, do not panic. That won't blow a fuse or anything like that. However, if you turn it on whilst the lever isn't fully closed, that may break contact, or actually it might cross contacts, and that could blow a fuse. So be careful with that. Do not do that. Do not cross wires. That will blow something. But like I said, luckily enough, we can change orientation without worrying of blowing a fuse. But yeah, this is the correct orientation. The way I showed there on the floor there, that was the correct way. So as we are doing here, we are just checking the orientations and everything's working okay. So let's just give it one more test, and then we can get to actually fixating this wire and turning it into a round cable. So you see we've got power and we've got full functionality. I already did test a full print. So if we just go to Tools, Move Z, move by 10 millimeters up. It's doing as it's supposed to. And I'm not going to put a lot of pressure, I'm just going to put it down here. And I've got some insulation tape here. And I'm going to use that to turn it basically into a round cable. And it doesn't have to be perfectly neat for me, I just want to turn it into a round cable as I mentioned. So just going to give it start at around 10 centimeters. And I'm not pulling it hard, I haven't got my foot on too much pressure. Yes, the first few winds are going to be the most difficult, but then when you get into a habit, it's going to become fine. And I'm not pulling it hard. So I have my printer here, and I'm going to note the numbers on this for future reference. Let's turn the printer to its side, and we're going to poke the cable through carefully. Okay. So we know this is working, and I'm going to go put it through here above the fan. I'm just reaching my hand in without touching the ultraviolet projectors, whatever they're called. I don't know, they're like magnifying glass. Anyway, I got it through, and you know what, I'm going to disconnect the screen because we know it works and we know the orientation. Alright, let's lay it down. So I'm going to have this cloth here. Careful with the wires. And the motherboard. This is a bit crazy what I'm doing. Oh, this is a bit of a mess. Not a mess. I think I need to use some insulation tape to hold things down. Let's use some insulation tape. Hold this in here. With the motherboard. Down here. What we don't want to interfere is with the UV stuff. So how do I want to hold this? Move that slightly down here. Okay, so what we need to think about is this cable. We do not want it interfering with these bulbs. There we go, that's good. So now we can mess around with the cable and adjust this position. Also now the cable feels a bit stiffer because we've got insulation tape on it. I'm going to give some excess from first, and then we'll mess around with the distance later. Okay, so what we need to make sure is that none of these pins touch here. There's pins here, and there's pins here. So where they don't touch is here, in the middle. So that would be perfect position for it. Okay, so, yep, I'm going to use my 3M tape. Actually, I need to stick this down into it first. And make sure it is very tight. Because remember, if it's not tight, it's not fully down, it won't pass the connection forward. Actually, I think I would prefer it if it was further down, so the alignment will be where this black block is, it will go over these pins, because black, that's plastic, it's not going to conduct. So let's get some. I'm going to do with small strips of 3M, not big strips. Well, that's kind of big actually, this strip. What am I talking about? Yeah, like that pretty much, yep. But no, what I want is, I want it quite thick. So what I could do is actually double it up once and then put it on. So the pins are in the middle. And I'm not going to push the pins. Put the backing tape off and I'm going to fold it over. Make it double as thick. There we go. Just using that to press down. And another one. A little further down. Fold it over again. Look. There we go. Yep. That's good. And now we can actually, I need to make sure that the black cable is perfectly aligned. And remember, these pins are going to go on top of the black area, because we don't want any connectors touching each other. Okay. So this, and fold it over like that, because it's not going to move. There, I could just use insulation tape to hold that wire in place, because we don't want it going over to the UV projectors. And for this, I'm going to use Kapton tape. This isn't, I wouldn't say this is necessary, this is for high heat applications. The reason I'm using this is because I saw it being used on top of these flat ribbon cables, so I'm just going to use this. I'm sure you guys could use insulation tape, but yeah, Kapton tape is supposed to be for not passing heat. It's supposed to be like really high heat resistance or something like that, so that's what it's meant for. It's not meant to be for something, ignore what I'm saying. Basically, you don't need to be too bothered about this. Yes, that should do. So this needs to go back. And then that you see it's going down, but at the moment I want to pull the wire slightly. At the moment it's over the UV lights, which is not what we want. Cables out the way. Okay, there, this is nice, very nice. Okay, let's try to secure it. Okay, motherboard is secured. But now, we need to resolve that cable to make sure it's not going to get in the way at all. Because if we look down here, currently it's on top of the UV projectors. What we just need to make is a little hole for the cable in the back panel. So let's just measure how big this hole would need to be. Roughly I'd say 8 millimeters. Need to make sure we reconnect the sensor wire into this. Quite hard to see, but here we go. Connected. And more than enough space for that, and obviously it's been very well sanded down so it's not rough. I'm just gonna secure just a few for now. What I'm gonna do first, I'm gonna lift it from the back and feed a bit more cable so we've got a bit more play. I can move it a bit further. Okay, so I've got a very small cable tie here. So let's put it around here and through the hoop of the existing cable tie. Actually, let's just do it through the bottom, the current cable tie. Let's see if I can hoop it. It's a bit too short, my current cable tie that I've got here. I don't want to mess around too much. So it's quite delicate pieces that I'm working with. Okay, I've got the cable tie. There we go. Got it round. Now, how much excess do I want? There we go. I'm gonna cut off that whilst not cutting the wires. There we go. So you see that white cable tie? Need to be careful with these wires because I think they're slightly interfering. No, it's fine actually, yeah. But the true test will be actually powering it on to see if everything works. Which it should. I mean, we did do a bit of tests. We can reconnect the screen cable. And what did I say? Do you guys remember? The pins go up, not down, unlike the one underneath. So I'm going to have the pins point up. And then clamp down. And then that goes like that basically. With the back panel removed, let's remove the fan as well so we can access cable tie. Put a cable tie around these cables. Just get that round out. Now we can just adjust its positioning carefully. Basically just make sure it won't be on top of that. But then it can go up like that. Yeah, that's fine, that's perfect. Because now it won't go above them. So now we can cut the excess of that cable tie whilst not cutting anything else. Just the cable tie. There we go. And now reattach this fan and then we can continue. Make sure cables aren't in the way. There we go. Done. I think it's to prevent it maybe from bending. We can actually just screw it from the back here. I think it's just for strength maybe, because that is where they are. I'm not going to screw these because that is for the auto feeding bottle, which doesn't work. So, and remember what I said, the connector should be tight. So we've got a solid screen and it displays great. And we've got a perfect operating system. But this is the screen that has got low touch responsivity. So I would like not to use this one because it's not very responsive. See, glitch screen, but if we tap something then it goes back to normal. And you see this is the very nice responsive one. Yeah, I'm just going to give it a clean with some IPA. Just the back connector. At first it shows me a glitch screen. After tapping the screen it goes back to normal. Whilst this screen, the one with the touch sensitivity, is 100% fine. Except the touch sensitivity of course. So I'm pretty sure that the connection is 100% solid. But it's just showing a slight glitch. But I'm going to keep the one there with a good touch sensitivity because once I touch the screen after it shows the glitch screen, it's 100% perfect. So the front panel no longer has a front, so what I did was I designed this little cover for it and I printed this on a textured sheet on an FDM printer. All it is really is just like a 2mm or 3mm thick panel with some inserts for screws, so these areas are supported. Well, you need to support them in your project, but basically we're just going to align it where the screen was. so it's perfectly aligned with the previous screws, and you can reuse the previous screws that were used for the LCD screen. And a little Allen drill bit, screw them in. Don't need to do it too tight, it just covers up that hole nicely so that we don't get any UV rays spilling out of that area and have them contained. Nice and easy, and then we can cover up the exposed printer area, so let's do that now. So I have been running this printer in this kind of setup, and I can see I've finished 2 prints with it already. Print complete, 12 hours, and I just left it like that just to see if it works, and it's working solid. And yes, I did have the front exposed through the print, but I had my blinds shut, so no UV rays were coming in. Put this little thing, USB slot will go. There's a double-sided tape on one side, so we want to put that onto the motherboard area so it sticks onto that. Get the LCD away a little bit. And now we're going to have to move the printer a little bit so we can actually secure the nut for the legs. So now we can actually put this back on. Until you see that the bottom is flush in terms of this area. Okay, so you need to be careful how you do this, because see, my leg is not supported anymore. It's kind of floating-ish, but I don't feel like removing the whole bat, so I'm being a danger devil. Daredevil, danger devil, what the hell am I saying? There we go, that's done. And last leg. And that's the front panel done. So now the only thing that's left is the actual monitor mount itself. There, doesn't that look much better? So I can get the USB reinserted and we can work on this screen. Okay, so we are ready to actually assemble all this for the screen over there, and we can mount it above the printer. I will need 6 M3 screws, 12mm with the head included. Now they can vary a little bit, they can be slightly shorter. We have the first 3 parts here, so we have the very front cover, and he's got a little cable cut out here. And before we do that, I am going to take the screen wrap on. It's not the screen protector, it's the one that comes with the screen itself. So let's peel that off. And it is going to go right at the bottom like that. But before we do that, we need to put the shim and then the mount to attach the adapter plate. So let's figure out which way it's going to go first. If it's going to go like that, like that. So yeah, it's like that because the front hole is aligned with the edges. So it doesn't go like this basically because this is longer than that. So it's going to go like that. And this one is going to go like this because you see these bits stick out, they go closer to the hole here. So that is basically the orientation. And these are printed separately so that we don't have to put a support. So before we actually do any mounting, I have this connected. You see the cable is connected, so. And then lift this wire slightly. How did I do this? Rotate it, I think. There we go. So that's one piece over. And the other piece over. There we go, they're both on. You need to be very careful with the cable. It's not as tricky as it may look. Just a bit of orientating of the cables, that's all it is. Okay, now that they are aligned, we can pop the screen in and it aligns very easily. There's no need for any force. So they are now aligned. And check the front of the screen. Yep, that looks like the correct orientation. So now we can screw this adapter to this plate. So let's use the driver with the short M3 screws. Now when you start feeling resistance of the screw, stop screwing, because this is plastic and you don't want to lose the thread. So I feel no resistance, and I'm starting to feel resistance, so you don't need to go over tight. Yeah, it's much easier with two hands. So put it a bit more, like that. And you want to leave a little slack so it's not too tight, so don't go all the way. And of course be very careful when cutting so you don't cut the cable. I'm going to go a bit longer so that it goes over the hole. Okay, so now we've got the insulation tape on. You can actually put on the enclosing lid. And you can put some pressure there and we can screw it in place. Again, when you feel resistance, stop screwing. It doesn't need to be extremely tight, there's no need for it. Just to hold everything together, basically. And remember, the reason why I'm making it external, just to make sure that the resin doesn't leak onto the screen, and for ease of access, to be honest, I like it more angled towards my head. Before we do any further mounting, let's give it a test, so let's turn it on. Screen turns on fine. Give it a second, make sure it all works, check the buttons. And it works perfectly fine. Great feedback, so now we can move on. I think I'll have it like that. And we've got the butterfly knob here and the M5 hexagon screw. So we put the hexagon screw, and yeah, I'll use the short one, and screw it tight. Okay. And although this has holes that you can screw into wood, I would rather use 3M tape, because in case I do decide to remove it, I like the idea of removing it without leaving a trace. So let's have it around there somewhere. And the more you put on, the more rigid it's going to be, and the more difficult it's going to be to remove. So I'm not going to put on too much, just 2 stripes. I am actually going to include the same back plate without the mount, which you could just put the 3M tape on top of this. Might be a cleaner look as well. I like it like that, aligned very nicely. Now we can put some pressure from the bottom. But 3M tape is rather strong, so you don't need to worry about that anyway. But yeah, that's pretty much it, that's done. So we can turn it on. And it works just nicely. And we can actually loosen the butterfly knob, and we can actually rotate it if we want to. But I like it like that. And it's very nice like that. Guys, thanks for watching. If you want the files, they will be up on my Etsy, so you get them over there. I will be including the mount for the screen, the front panel cover, and the adjustable feet as mentioned before. So take care guys, till the next one. Peace.